and I welcome you to this session, which is, in fact, a change in mood, a shift in mood for this conference, which has been celebrating normal activities in HE. And I'm absolutely honoured to be chairing a session which has, in front of you, hopefully on screen, 6 people who I have known and worked with for over 2 years now, through a combination or a partnership with the British Council, Ukraine, and also with the Institute of Higher Education, Ukraine, where we have been working on developing teaching and learning in Ukraine, and the people that you see have been totally committed to that piece of work, and unfortunately gone through a situation in February, continuing today, that none of us could have envisaged as we were moving forward and thinking about the development of HE. I have been keeping in touch with these people on Telegram, which is the equivalent to WhatsApp, throughout the crisis, and they have been keeping me in touch with events and what is happening over there. And they kindly agreed to join us today to share their experiences at a teaching and learning conference. I crowdsourced questions from the community and collated them into a short list. This will not be the only chance for them to have their voice. They have already written blogs in 2 cases, and we will be inviting them to answer additional questions after this session. So thank you to the people in the room. Welcome to the people who are on YouTube and following on the live stream. We're inviting you to interact either on Twitter through the hashtag AskUkraineHE, or if you're following on YouTube, muted of course, then there is a comments panel open there and you can ask questions or you can comment. And I know that we have got a lot of people joining us live on a YouTube live stream, which is the first time we've ever done this. So thank you everybody for coming, and welcome to all the people on the Zoom call. And I'm going to invite them to shortly interact with us and tell us their name, their role, and what they're doing at the moment, what their current situation is. So I'm just wondering, could I possibly start with Olga? Can I pass the mic to you? It's not loud. Sorry, Olena, the feed is not coming through. Yes, start again.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay, my name is Olga Yashenkova. I'm Associate Professor of the English Philology and Intercultural Communication Department at Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv, that is the capital of Ukraine, and my university is one of the oldest and the largest university. I teach such disciplines as communication theory, business communication, English academic writing, and teaching English in multicultural classrooms. I've been staying in Kyiv since the very first days of the war, and I'm still in Kyiv. The situation now is much better compared to February or March, but unfortunately, we still can hear air raid sirens almost every day. And unfortunately, Kyiv is still a target for Russian troops. Well, but nevertheless, my university is working, and Kyiv is standing, and Kyivites are staying strong.
Thank you, Olga. Anastasia, over to you.
Hello, my name is Anastasiia Yakovenko. I am a senior lecturer in the Mathematics and Physics Department at Bogdan Khmelnytsky, Melitopol State Pedagogical University. I teach courses in mathematics, analytic geometry, differential equations, Olympiad problem, and also the use of technology in teaching and learning. Melitopol has been occupied by the Russians since the start of the war. However, now the university has been temporarily transferred to Zaporizhia, a city located in territory controlled by Ukrainian. I have escaped from the occupied zone, and I am continuing to teach my students remotely from another part of the Ukraine, our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia, who has fled the occupied zone. Katerina, can you join us?
Okay, hello to everyone who joined this panel. I'm Katerina Yeremieva from the Ukrainian State University of Railway Transport in Kharkiv. I'm a teacher of history and politology, and during the first months of the war in Ukraine, I stayed in Kharkiv, which became a city close to the front line. But now I'm a fellow at the Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich, and I still have been working with my Ukrainian students remotely. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. Okay, Mykola.
So, dear colleagues, thank you very much indeed for inviting to such very interesting event for us. So, I'm Mykola Tregup. I am the Vice Rector for Perspective Development of Dnipro University of Technology. We're still in Dnipro. Yesterday we had, in the early morning, 6 missiles attacks, and fortunately only one strike directly to Dnipro, but other rockets were completely destroyed by our army, and that's the best thing we have now. I work for Dnipro University Technology and responsible for innovations and the implementation of innovations at our university. Also, Dnipro University of Technology is the host university for Azov National Technical University that was located in Mariupol, and now it's temporarily transferred to Dnipro. So we hope everything will be okay, and Ukraine will win completely in this war. Thanks.
Thank you, Mykola. And now to our colleagues from the Institute of Higher Education. Can I introduce Olena?
Yes, thank you, Katie. Greetings to all the participants. I'm Elena Orgel, Institute of Higher Education, and we are a research institution, not a university, a research institution with the functions of a think tank. So our major functions, our major role is promotion of higher education, modernization of higher education, dissemination of good practices, and alignment of Ukrainian higher education with Bologna principles, and also with the global trends. Like Olga, have been staying in Kyiv since the beginning of the war, and I am in Kyiv now. And I do not teach. The programs that we have had with Advanced HE, we have been running 2 programs, they have been canceled. But in our institute, we still continue doing this research. And my message that I'm sending using every opportunity, every conference like this one, Ukraine needs more higher education during the war and in post-war period, not less, but more.
Thank you. And finally to Katerina.
Greetings to all participants. I'm very happy to join you. I'm Katerina Trima. I'm also proud to be in a team of Institute of Higher Education. I am PhD in political sciences, and I investigate the role of modern universities, their social role and social responsibilities. And I would like to say that in this difficult for my country situation, our universities show their unique features like flexibility, diversity, adaptivity. I think that for the higher education, it's the most difficult period during all independence period of Ukraine. But I am really appreciate that all university teachers, all students, they have patience, they demonstrate creativity under these unpredictable circumstances. And I think that it is the main feature of Ukrainian higher education. We are really inspired and we love our job really very much. And a few words about me. Now I'm in Germany. I also used to live near Kyiv. Unfortunately, my region was temporarily occupied, but now I also have a scholarship at the Berlin Freie University and I continue my researching.
Thank you, Kate. So the two most popular questions that we were asked when I was crowdsourcing is the first question I'm going to ask. How are you managing to teach? How are your students managing to learn? How are you managing to assess? And to start the answers to that question, I'm going to start with two people who wrote blogs for us, which are on Advanced HE's website. So can I pass to you, Anastasiia, to talk about how you are managing to teach?
Thank you. Let me tell you about the situation in which I have been teaching students during the occupation and how I have been managing to support their learning. The Russians invaded my native town on the 24th of February and the city is still occupied. Communication worked off, teaching stopped. The speed and the quality of the internet was and is very slow. In the moments we get a stable Wi-Fi signal, I talked with my students and we decided we should restart studying. The psychological adjustment was difficult, like recovering from a serious physical illness, but education has become an important link for our community. With little or no internet, we communicated via text messages on Telegram and Viber. Over the next 2 months and even today, that's how I communicate with my students and my colleagues. It's effective for checking in with students and for sharing information about what to study next. Teaching and learning has had to become completely asynchronous for technical and security reasons. The university had developed a Moodle site used extensively during the pandemic. We had uploaded a lot of theoretical material and tasks already on Moodle. The university's distance learning staff has had secretly backed up the Moodle site and moved it out of the country on 25th February, the day the Russian tanks rolled onto our streets. Our staff anticipated the problem and took preemptive measures to protect Moodle access for our students. When there was an armed takeover of our university, it was in May, only teachers loyal to Ukrainian got access to Moodle, and it was a surprise. It was an operation worthy of Agent 007 by our education fighters. The internet signal was not always strong enough to allow students to load the site. So every week, I sent a text message with tasks to my groups of students. In the text, there was a link to a theoretical material or a file, and a link to a short YouTube video, which I created to explain the material and where I analyze practical tasks with commentary. I offered the students tasks to do in several different formats. The video creation was very time-consuming. The videos have to be short, informative, and as visual as possible. I screened record handwritten explanations. I then had to edit the video and speeded up the recordings so they used at least data for students when viewing. I used special tools for visualizations and include interesting facts to motivate students. I wanted students to understand the essentials of what they were studying. In some videos, I made deliberate mistakes and asked students to find my errors. This allowed me to assess how thoroughly the students had watched the video. assessed a task for students who were released via Moodle and Telegram. And they completed them when they were psychologically ready. I usually give practical problems to solve and ask students to create video with explanations. Students can also take tests on Google Form. Google automatically saves students' answer in their browser. This is very useful when the internet is unstable. I accepted answer from students in any format. In response, I sent text and voice messages or video with the analysis of problems and answered questions from students. It is now more than ever important to have a trusting relationship with students in order to continue the process of assessment. The whole assessment process was carried out as sensitively as possible, with students receiving quick feedback on the work and with an opportunity to resubmit it if it's necessary. Interestingly, students are no longer asked about the assessment or format. We had moved on to learn to the sake of learning. Distance learning during the pandemic has become familiar and comfortable for students over time. The war has changed the format of education, but it has not stopped it. Texts, videos, Moodle, empathy. The Ukrainians are a powerful and invisible nations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anastasiia, for all the work you do on video. Okay, you've got a round of applause from the room. Okay, Olga. Olga in Kyiv, slightly different situation because you haven't been invaded, but could you talk us through what you do?
Okay. In my case, the situation was a bit different. Actually, I personally had students who come from various regions of Ukraine, and the situation in different regions was different. So it was impossible to find one single recipe for all students. So some students prefer to work individually, and traditional asynchronous distance learning was more effective for them, but others wanted more synchronous sessions, and they wanted to feel that they are part of learning community. So they were seeking any opportunity to collaborate with one another. I described, actually, I shared my teaching experience in the blog that I had written for Advanced HE. I wouldn't repeat. Maybe I focus more on assessment. Anastasiia says that her students were not interested in assessment. In my case, my students were asking a lot of questions about assessment, and actually they made me make some changes in this assessment system and introduce some new formats. Because we were approaching the end of the semester, and all the students were interested in the successful completing and having good grades. So I introduced a kind of combination of some traditional and alternative assessment, and offered students to complete a research project, because I wanted all of them to learn something and acquire and develop some new skills. We were constantly thinking about the quality of education despite the war. And so they had take-home exam task as part of their summative assessment. And when they appeared on the day of the exam, So they had only just complete a short test and have a discussion based on their completed project. So you can read about the project in the blog. Actually, at the end, all of them were able to produce a video, a kind of report. And we also just had some interesting discussions, and all the students appreciated this new format. I was thinking about the situation. The situation could change any time, and we also had some problems. Some students had problems with the internet connection, and we also had some situations when there were air raid sirens during the exam. It means that we had to stop and then continue so the exam in a while. What I can say, so what we have learned during our teaching excellence program, I mean, about new innovative techniques and tools, all were very useful and effective. And another important thing is that we have to listen to student voices and support them all the time.
Thank you, Olga.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask Katerina, who's also been teaching remotely, if she's got anything to add, and then I'm going to move to Mykola and our colleagues from the Institute of Higher Education to talk about how they've managed to keep universities running, how they've managed to keep this system running. Katerina, have you got anything to add?
Okay, thank you. And I want to add that one way to organize teaching in wartime is to be as flexible as possible concerning the students and the situation in which they find themselves. So, as example, starting from lectures and ending with practical tasks, I use the same lecture in a synchronous format on Zoom, but after that I posted its recording in a shortened version to allow students to watch it. The first, I do the same tasks in different formats. The first one is interactive on such platforms as Wordroll, Kahoot. I also send a modified task in Google Form, which as practice has shown works even with poor internet. And there is also an option for written work. And for this, I also change the format of the same task. In extreme cases, I have to be ready to contact the student by phone and accept the tasks from him or she early. Any such effort is already did in wartime, so we should be as loyal as possible to students' results. Some of them did their works while sitting in the subway. Some of students work on evacuation trains, and they can work during breaks in their overly rigid work schedules. Thus, effort and activity should rather be assessed now. It also became necessary to maximize the estimated time for completing tasks and, of course, avoid rigid deadline.
Thank you. Well, so the idea of being flexible, using different tools, giving different formats to students, and understanding they can't do things when you want them to do it because of the external circumstances. Okay, Mykola, can I move over to you? Because in your role as Vice Rector, you have had a responsibility in keeping education moving in Ukraine. And then I'll move to Elena and Katerina. Or Kate. Okay.
Dear colleagues, a few words. The first month of the invasion were completely challenging, and it was very hard to realize what are we going to do. From the prospects of the vice rector of the managing university, we had to realize that at least three main things should be done first. First one is to make the backups, to make the cloud copies of all documents, of all study programs, of everything that we have currently at the university. And in this case, our IT partner, IT, helped us to book some space at the Amazon. and we have uploaded all our documents, everything that we have. It was done immediately, about in 1 week. We had all documents uploaded to the cloud storage. So the next thing was how to manage and how to do with what to do with the study process. We tried to focus our attention and to realize what is better, to make synchronously or asynchronously the study process. We had good experience of online learning during the COVID time, and we had these synchronous distance learning, but in this case, it didn't work at all. At the beginning of March, we had 2 weeks of vacations, and during these 2 weeks, all our lecturers, all our teachers have done a lot. I think that most of them didn't believe that they could manage to do so many things. They have created all the materials, video connections, some videos, some lectures, and additional. They have made many methodical work to do, and they have uploaded this to Moodle platform that is connected with Office 365 with Microsoft. So based on these platforms, we have worked since 2015, and now they're working directly, asynchronously, and only using such combination. We managed to save students, we managed to save lectures and the whole overall study process. Another challenge was how to sign the documents when the students are abroad, or students are on the territories that are not completely Ukrainian now, temporary. But we also managed to overcome this problem. This was the digital signature of the students, and we managed also to realize with our IT partners how to create such a unified platform to deal with this. And another less problem, but it's not the least important, that it's internet connections and direct the electricity. With these problems, also the Ministry of Education helped us a lot, and our government, local government, also helped us a lot, because during this period we managed to install the Starlink environment, and also it means that we have another internet connection that is completely different to all that we have now. And what about electricity? Also, during this period of time, we have developed emergency electricity line to overcome the problem when something will be wrong, and if something goes wrong, we have this another electricity line that could be used also for the temporary transferred university, as I have already told, from Melitopol, that is based also now in Dnipro at Dnipro University of Technology. So I think that the list of problems might be more and more, but the most significant, I've told that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikola. Okay, Olena and Kate, you've had a kind of national role in making sure that education is still running, higher education still running. I don't know if you've got anything to add or you would like to share. Oh, Olena, you're mute.
Yeah, I'm saying let Katerina start, because she also has a teaching experience, and then I will follow.
Kate.
I would like to add that this year I was also partly in a team of Mariupol State University, the university which was totally ruined, I mean building and a lot of things, because the city was ruined under the conditions of war. And I was honored to be the head of examination committee, and I took final examinations. And it also was a big challenge for me. To be honest, it was the most difficult examination in my life. On the one hand, I had to follow some levels, some requirements, and to provide good assessment. On the other hand, students were shocked. Some didn't have normal connection. They were speaking they were taking this examination in the hotel because there was no internet, not from computers, from mobile telephones, and some of them were on unruled territory, and part of them lost their families, lost their parents in this war, and therefore communication was really very and difficult for me, because I needed to support the students. I need to provide them help, but I also had to ask them to see if they are professionals. And we find maybe new form which is also great under these conditions. We must concentrate, we decided that we must concentrate not on facts, persons, and dates, maybe some basic variants of this. But we need to concentrate more on analytical thinking, dialogue form of examinations, and really examinations also had to become like blended examinations, because really when you start preparing, when you start answering, and after that connection disappeared, and you need to continue your answer after 5 minutes, it's also was not very good for the students. And examinations under the conditions of war is really very it's really big tragedy. But I must say the students were really motivated, because learning process, examinations, even final examinations, traditionally very difficult for the students. All this helps students to understand that normal life is continuing, that yes, a lot of things changed, their houses were ruined, their parents were killed in this war, but some processes are stable, and this like rituals which helped students to keep on and to continue their studying process, and their functioning like human beings. And it is also important, not only teaching and taking examinations.
Thank you, Kate. You're bringing us to reality with what you're talking about there, really serious things. Olena, from the point of view of the Institute of Higher Education.
Yeah, the Institute is continues to do what we have been doing for years, and this is basically research and preparing policy briefs and cooperation with the Ministry of Education and Verkhovna Rada, our parliament, and other higher education stakeholders. There is a diversity of opinion among our team of the Institute, what is going to happen to higher education. But what is important, I think, that we discuss this issue in different groups on different platforms. And as I said, my position is we need more higher education. There is also a group that is working on the so-called optimization of the sector. This is, we have too much universities and too few students, and the situation will only aggravate. And there are people, scholars, researchers who are desperately looking for solutions, what we're going to do with this. But there are also other initiatives like the one that we have launched at the Institute. It is called Academics to Academics, and this is about assisting those, not universities, but staff of universities that had to relocate, that had been displaced, assist with some minimum need that they have, buying a telephone or buying a computer or doing something very, very simple so that the teacher could return to work and continue working. So this is what we are doing. And we are, I would say, frantically taking part in different conferences, each of us trying to send the messages that he or she finds relevant. So I would say we are quite active at the moment.
Thank you,
quite
Elena.
busy. Not
Yeah,
active,
no,
but
that's
busy.
really interesting to hear. And I think we will come back to that in the final question of this session, because I think it's really important for people in the room and people watching online that they know how they can support their colleagues, or our colleagues in Ukraine. Okay, so we decided that we would have some rapid round questions now. So I'm going to ask you to really quick answers if possible. So we're going to go round the Zoom room, and if you could tell us what has impressed you most about the teachers that you are working with, your colleagues? What's impressed you during this period? So start with Elena and then Katerina, and let's go find out what has impressed you.
I will continue. I would like to tell a story about my colleague, Lesia Chervona. She is not the teacher, but she is a teacher, but she is the editor in our journal. And since the first weeks, not baby days, but weeks of the war, she was really worried because so many people have been relocated and we do not have enough articles for our journal. And let's do something, let's work more actively. So she was professional like she was before. And she continued her work and she really wanted to do her job very good. And another story about her, she said, I told my son, who is 15, everybody is running. Let's also run. Let's run for our lives. Let's get safe. And my son said, no, I'm not going anywhere. If you want, you may go. I'm staying. This is my country. And this is a 15-year-old boy. And another part of the story is mother agreed. So she respects the opinion of her son and said, well, okay, let's stay here. Nothing bad happened to them. So she's still the editor and she's taking care of our journal.
So it's that continued professionalism, commitment to staying. Okay, Katerina, what has impressed you about your colleagues, the teachers?
I was impressed.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was impressed by mutual support and mutual interest, because what the war can do. War ruined our social connections, but we tried to keep on, we write messages, we tried to dial, and maybe it wasn't like some material help, but it was a kind of support, because we were online, we were connected.
Okay, good. The other Katerina, we've got too many Katerinas.
Okay, as I properly understand, only one word here for answer.
Yeah, what's impressed you about your colleagues, the teachers you work with?
So it is dedication.
Great, good. Short answer, that's what I was looking at. Mikola, what about you? The people you work with?
Several words. There was the mobilization of efforts of teachers despite the place where they are.
Thank you. Anastasia.
I want to say that in situation of my town, this terrible period made our life black and white. I became very clear to see my colleagues who are devoted to their country and their professional. And there were so many committed teachers. We all stepped up to preserve the educational process and work very hard in different conditions. We have become an educational front.
Thank you. Okay, Olga, what about your colleagues and the teachers?
Actually, the same as the previous speakers, dedication, high professionalism. But what impressed me, that my colleagues were thinking about the quality of higher education. Despite the war, they were thinking about different innovative approaches to teaching.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move to the students, because my next question is going to be about students and student supports. But what has impressed you about your students? So let's have Katerina Y to start.
Okay, with regard to students, I want to say about their courage to continue their learning and to help their country in any time. It's impressive.
Thank you.
What about Mikola, the students?
I was very impressed that students are very linked to teachers, and with university, it's a big family.
Great. Anastasia, your students?
My students understood the value of education. We become motivators for each other.
So it's a mutual. We motivate each other. Thank you for that. Olga.
I should tell mutual support. So we supported one another, teacher and student.
Okay, Kate, you've worked with some students in very difficult circumstances. What has impressed you?
I was impressed by their motivation to finish the process and to get diploma under these awful circumstances, and their resilience, because really they found the resources how to overcome and to complete the educational process rather well, to be honest.
Great. Okay, and what I'm going to ask now, we've asked about the teachers, we've asked about the students. What about you? What have you learnt about yourself over the last few months? I don't know, who would like to start on what have you learnt about yourself? I don't know if Elena would like to start us with that. What have you learnt about yourself?
I would say I learned about myself that I'm either too lazy or too resilient. Because since the first day of the war, I said, I'm not going anywhere. There were quite a number of proposals, scholarships, or friends, but I said, no, not ready to be a refugee. And for myself, I really don't know how to explain. Maybe I'm too old and too lazy.
Definitely not either of those things, Elena. Having worked with you, that is just not true. Okay, anybody else would like to share what they've learnt about themselves? I can see Olga has unmuted. Olga, what have you learnt about yourself?
Actually, nothing new. The only thing that I wouldn't expect that I would be so quiet when Kyiv was bombing with missiles. I wasn't panicked. I didn't expect this. And like Olena, my family and I decided not to flee and stay in Kyiv.
Okay, thank you. What about Mikola? What have you learnt about yourself?
I would never say that university could be a shelter for everyone. Firstly, for teachers and for their families, because during the first days of the war, I could never believe that the families with teachers would stay 24 hours for 7 days at the university. They were sleeping here. They were totally, completely inside the university. University as a shelter, I could never believe that it might happen.
Great, thank you for that. Katrina, why?
Okay, maybe for the first time in my life, I don't hesitate to say that my efforts matter. So it would arise during the war.
Thank you. Well, Anastasia, what have you learnt about yourself?
As for me, I realize that we are capable of much more than we think about ourselves.
Yeah, in extreme circumstances. Yeah, you've proved that. Okay, Katrina T, what have you learnt about yourself?
And I agree with Anastasiia that for me it was how to say, very surprising that under very difficult circumstances I can find new opportunities. No, I know it, and I was learned how to do it, but it was in peaceful life, in standard office life, when we have stable work, when we have stable timetables, when we have stable public transport, stable hours of shops. But under these circumstances, I can manage myself and I can find new opportunities. And not only for me, but for my institute and for higher education of Ukraine also.
Thank you. Okay, that moves us on, I think, to we've talked about what you've learnt about yourself, the support that you are giving students, but you also are going through very, very stressful times. So in your blog, Olga, you talk about being there for students 24/7. And one of the questions that arose from crowdsourcing is, how do you cope? Why is this important? And how do you manage that with actually looking after yourself and your families? Olga.
Such a difficult question, how to manage. Actually, when you have to work and live in such conditions, you don't think about your well-being. Yes, somehow we try to support one another. It doesn't matter if it is a student, a family member, and every Ukrainian person tries just to support, to help. Certainly it's very important to be available all the time, because the situation may change any moment. Now it may be okay, but in a minute something may happen, and you may not get in touch with the students. So it was important just to respond as soon as you can and see if the person needs any help, any support. So this how.
Yeah, okay. So anybody else want to contribute to the idea of how you support your students, why this is, obviously why this is important, we know that, but how you manage that with your own well-being and your own commitments? Yeah, Katerina T.
Thank you. I would like to add that it was mutual support. Not only I supported students, but students also supported me. We supported each other because I also was shocked. I had some kind of trauma because all the dramatic changes. I didn't say that I used to live near Bucha, therefore it was necessary for me to escape in the first weeks of the war with my daughter to Germany. I was shocked. I wanted to come back home. I was afraid to come back home because just because I have a child, and it was a bit traumatic. But students started to ask me, examinations, how it will be. We don't know what to do. We are on the occupied territories. We are under bombing. And I needed to answer something, and I needed to give some reaction, some support. And it helped me not to think about my personal tragedy of these changings. And I tried to help them, and at the same time, they didn't support me. I mean, they didn't say something, Kate, don't worry, we will help you. But just because of the process of communication, it was easier for me to understand the new reality of my life. So mutual support.
Thank you. So it's a two-way process. And anybody else got a comment to add about this? Yes, Katerina, why?
Okay, thank you. And yes, it's a great challenge when the different opportunities for students to have access to education. So this was felt during the pandemic, but now it has taken on terrible proportions. First, our students are on both sides. On the front line is everyone. And some forced to flee their homes without necessary equipment for distance education. So I find a way to keep in touch with students in any possible way. I, like my colleagues, have chats with students in all maybe existing messengers, and I would like to joke about pigeons mail, but maybe it's not a joke anywhere now. Fortunately, the pandemic has taught us at all, as well as the participation in the Teaching Excellence program in Ukraine. So here, and for the first time in my life, I understand this mutual support from students, because I recognize one precious phrase at the beginning of their messages during the war: sorry for disturbing you.
Wow. Anybody else want to, before I move to what was the most, I think, important question that we from the UK wanted to ask you? Is there any other comment about supporting students? Yeah, Mykola.
A few words. I think that's very necessary for the future of Ukraine at all. As we believe that Ukraine has to be the independent state, and in this case, all students should be supported by us, because we don't know actually where the students are. we don't know about all the students, and we should share our opinion. We should share thoughts. We should share news, even news, because in some temporary occupied regions, they are completely without news about the truly situation, what is going on in Ukraine. They think that Ukrainian government have forgotten about them. It's not true. They are completely involved in the structure, in the economy of Ukraine. This is our future, and that's why we have to be 24 hours a day and 7 days a week together with students.
Thank you. Okay, the question in my crowdsourcing that came up many, many times was, how can we help? How can the academic community in the UK and beyond help? What can we do? So I'm going to ask Olena and Katerina T to come in last, because I think that's going to be at a very strategic level. But I wondered whether any of our colleagues could give us some practical ideas of how we can help you. I don't know whether Katerina, you'd like to go first, Katerina Y, or Mikola? Yeah? Okay, Katerina.
Okay. Maybe it is was saying that in cooperation with British universities, it would be possible to provide infrastructure for remote carrying out of laboratory work, some projects, etc. And this is especially important if the laboratory are destroyed or located in occupied territory. Yes, it's crucial important. I think.
Thank you. That's really interesting, and I'll make a note of that. So this is about laboratory works, remote laboratories. Okay, good. Thank you, Mikola. You signalled that you were wanting to say something. Yeah.
I would like to add some words that globalization have already moved many years, and so as Olena told, that we are already involved in the overall European study process and also the research process, and we should not stop this process of globalization and process of joint research. So in this case, I think and I hope that it might be more joint researches, more mobility projects to increase the level and the capabilities of Ukrainian researchers to be involved and to follow their research. And I believe that also the access to study materials that could be used using the online platforms, it's also a very important step to make the quality of higher education in Ukraine in this very strange and very hard situation that will make a bit better.
Thank you. Olga and Anastasiia, do you have anything to add about how we can help?
Yes.
Well, go on.
Go on, Anastasiia, go. Yeah?
Yeah. I think we need to feel alive and needed. Many people are now experiencing domestic, financial difficult psychological problems. We have a lot of problems in temporarily displaced university, but we are very strong because we teach and support students and each other during the fight. Some do it in occupation, some in the basement, and some in hotels, some at home. We have been through it a lot. We don't even fully understand it. But we gained incredible strength and experience. We have a wonderful saying: learn for others and do not shy away from our own. It's from Shevchenko. Therefore, it would be great to organize a platform of sharing the experience of our teaching professionals with European and UK colleagues. It would be great to blur educational borders between Ukrainian and UK. And I want to say thank you for your cooperation and for your support.
Thank you, Anastasiia. Olga.
I agree with the previous speakers. What I was thinking about education without borders. just to involve British colleagues and Ukrainian colleagues in joint projects or involve students. It can be easily realized virtually these days. And because I think we can learn a lot from each other. And we have something to share, and we would like also to learn more about good practice of teaching from our British colleagues.
Okay, and finally, I'm going to ask Elena and Katerina T to kind of just think about what we can do now, but perhaps projecting into the future, a positive future for HE.
In the Institute of Higher Education, I'm the team leader of the research project University Social Responsibility. And I think that this time is really an opportunity for our universities to demonstrate the power of knowledge, to become open knowledge institutions, to be in the center of innovation systems, to partner with international organizations, international partners, with local business, with our authorities of all level, and demonstrate that as an innovation ecosystem in partnership with international organizations, we can really solve as many problems as possible. And this is the first enabler in our preparation for the recovery. And the two other enablers that I would like to mention would be make universities in partnership with other institutions. They have to focus on management skills, on development of business management, European governance, team leadership, because now we see the Lugano Recovery Conference has taken place, and there is so much dissatisfaction because the government itself is unable to solve all the problems and get ready for solving these problems. In my opinion, universities should get involved. And probably the most important, in my understanding, at this moment, assignment for the universities is really focus on social humanitarian issues. If we want to win, if we want to rebuild our country, we really have to think about cohesion, social cohesion, inclusion, and we have to learn to talk to people who have won the victory for us. War veterans, people who have lost their limbs, people who have lost their health. We have to learn to talk to children who are disabled because of the war. I personally do not know how to do this, but I think that we all have to learn, and we have to be a cohesive society when we feel comfortable in whatever company we are, not only scholar talking to scholar, but to scholar talking to war veteran, scholar talking to a displaced individual. And so this focus on cohesion, inclusion, and social development. This is the responsibility of universities, and I really ask all the universities to work on this and ask our international partners, and know you have this experience, to help us with this. And Katerina will continue.
Just a few words to finish, and I would like to say that all programs which my institute and other universities of Ukraine took part, like leadership of higher education and teaching excellence, were extremely useful for the teachers and universities. To be honest, many graduates of this program, they now are more resilient, and they have better opportunities. They are more adaptive and flexible in this difficult situation. Therefore, if we continue these projects for other universities to create, I don't know, the network of agents, maybe we who are graduates of these programs, with the help of your organization and British Council, continue doing it, and it will be extremely useful.
Thank you. That is a final comment from our panel, but I think I've taken from this that you want to feel that we're there for you, which we are, that we admire your resistance, your courage, everything that you are doing, that ironically on the day of the invasion we were working with you, with the British Council, with Elena, on internationalizing HE and talking about embedding education in communities. So I think the message I take from you is we need to continue doing that. And our position at HE, Advanced HE on our website, is that we are in total support and we want to hear from you how we can help. You've told us today and we will take it forward. And we will take the comments that have been coming in on our channel, on YouTube, but also on Twitter. And we'll come back to you with extra questions. We want to offer you a voice. So if there are additional answers that you would like to give, please feel free to let us know. And thank you. Thank you for sharing everything with us today.
Thank you.
Well done. You've got a remote clap on Zoom and people are applauding in the room. So well done to everybody. Thank you very much indeed.
One final word of thanks to Katie, who has organized all this. Thank you, Katie, very much. I did not speak about how I manage my well-being, but this well-being have been with a lot of telephone calls and messages from my friends, and Advanced HE and you personally were one of the most active people who were asking questions. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? I'm okay. Thank you, Katie.
It was an honor. Thank you.